So I'm going to keep this intro short because we have got a lot of locations to look at today, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat that it was really hard to find most of these locations because there's just not a lot of information online about Repo Man. So I had to do a lot of hunting and a little bit of guessing. It's now time to go check out filming locations for Repo Man. So let's go see what we can find. So I reached out to Xander, who plays bass in the Weirdos and the Circle Jerks, and he played Kevin in Repo Man. I was hoping that he would be able to remember where some of these locations were. Unfortunately, he didn't remember much, but the one thing that he did remember is the supermarket where Kevin and Otto worked was filmed at a Ron's supermarket on Sunset Boulevard, and it's now a 99-cent store. Now there's only two 99-cent stores on Sunset Boulevard, and this is one of them. And in fact, this did used to be a Ron's Market from the 70s until at least the 90s. We see Otto's manager and the security guard walking through the store. Notice those posts. The aisles are moved around, but this is definitely the right place. And as Otto's stocking the shelves, you can see some double doors behind him. And there's those doors. And right up here on the wall is where it said barbecue behind the manager. So that means that I'm standing pretty much right where Otto tells his boss, well, flip you.
Flip you.
After Otto pushes Kevin into the peaches, he turns in his bow tie and makes his exit from the store. So after losing his job and losing his girl, we see Otto sitting on some railroad tracks, having a beer and singing TV Party by Black Flag. He was sitting right here on these tracks with the 4th Street Bridge in the background behind him. Of course, at the time, there was no train on the tracks. We see Otto walking down the street right here before rounding the corner. That building at the time was some type of a junkyard or a storage yard. Bud would have been parked right here in the street, and as Otto walks by, he asks him if he wants to make $10 helping him move his wife's car, and his wife's car would have been parked somewhere right here. This building at the time, this was the apartment building that the old couple comes running out of trying to stop Otto from repossessing their car. Bud would have been stopped right here in the intersection, and pretty much all these buildings are different, except for that building right there on the right corner. I think that might be the same building that we see in the movie. Otto takes off in the couple's car, he rounds the corner and drives off down the street right here. We get a quick shot of Dr. Parnell driving right here on the southbound 2 freeway. You can see that sign right there for Mountain Street as he passes under the overpass. So probably one of the most confusing locations has been the actual repo yard. And that's because if you look at the address in the movie, it's 2100 Wall. But if you go to 2100 Wall Street, nothing there matches up. It's basically all a residential neighborhood, and all those houses were built long before Repo Man was filmed. Also, the shot of downtown Los Angeles and the Bendix Tower don't at all match up with the shot that we get in the movie. However, when Otto walks out of the Repo Yard building and he's talking to Miller, you can see a building across the street, and the address is 1024 South Crocker Street. Crocker Street is about a mile or so away from Wall, and they never cross. I'm sitting right in front of where 1024 Crocker used to be, but this entire street has been redone. All these buildings have been built since Repo Man was filmed. So basically right here where this green building is, I believe this is where the Repo Yard used to be. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure by everything that I found, this is where the Repo Yard was. This building right across the street, this is where 1024 Crocker was. This is the building that you can see behind him when he's talking to Miller. And although you can't really see it now because the building's too tall, if we come around to the back side of the building, you can see that downtown Los Angeles is to the right and the Bendix building is to the left. The exact same shots that you get in the movie when they pull into the Repo Yard. And the funny thing is, if I'm correct about this being the location of the Repo Yard, right here on 10th and Crocker, this is the same spot where Bud first picks up Otto. When Bud and Otto are driving around and Bud's teaching Otto the ropes of being a repo man, a lot of those scenes were shot right here on Broadway in downtown Los Angeles. We definitely get a clear shot of them driving by the Orpheum Theater right here on the left side. Now, in the extended TV version of the movie, there's some extra footage of them driving down Broadway, and we see them passing through the intersection of Broadway and 6th, and you see the Los Angeles Theater that can be seen right here on the right side. The scene with Bud, Otto, and the Rodriguez brothers driving in the LA River was shot right here between the 1st Street Bridge and the 6th Street Bridge, and they enter into the river from the 6th Street Viaduct. This is the intersection where Otto throws the dead rat into the lady's car, hoping that she'll jump out so he can repossess it. Now, of course, it backfires and she just ends up spraying him with mace and driving away, leaving Otto standing in the middle of the intersection right here, blinded and in pain. Now, as always, most of the buildings right here have changed. None of them are really the same. I think these buildings right down here at the end might be the same. But when she drives off, you can see the street sign for Pico right here. This is where Otto's driving when he first sees Leila. She was walking down the sidewalk right here, and he tries to pick her up and asks her if she needs a ride. And right here on the corner is where Otto crashes into the trash cans and knocks them all over because he's not paying attention because he's staring at Leila. The old lady comes out with the rake and she starts yelling at Otto for him to pick up all the trash cans. He asks Leila if she still wants a ride. She gets in the car and they take off. This is where Otto and Leila were driving when the government guys pull up next to them, but nothing here is the same as it was in the movie. Now, I'm assuming this Valero gas station is the Shell gas station that we see in the movie. There was also a Safeway grocery store, quite possibly where this brand new apartment building is, right here on the left side. Right here is where Leila yanks the steering wheel, causing the car to turn right on this street. Now, although this building on the corner is no longer an auto parts store, it's still pretty recognizable. Now, after Otto picks up Leila to give her a ride, he brings her right here to where she works at the United Fruitcake outlet. Now, Otto's car would have been parked right here in front of the building. When him and Leila get out, the camera is shooting this way, and the buildings across the street appear to have changed, but it's still a trucking yard. This is the spot where Light and Otto come to repossess the car, and a lot has changed here since then. There's no longer tracks running down the middle of the street, and this is also no longer a through street. However, this building is very unique and definitely recognizable. They would have been crossing the street just on the other side of this utility pole right here. So they come walking across the street, and the car that they're repossessing is parked right here on the side of the building. Now, this building is still the same. However, those tracks that were on the side of the building, those are no longer there. Now, they finally get inside the car and get it started and speed away. But like I said, this street no longer goes through. And once they speed away from the building, we see them driving over the 4th Street Bridge. The camera then cuts and they're driving over the 6th Street Bridge, which has since been torn down and reconstructed. This was the car wash that Kevin worked at, and right there where that Arco is, that was the burger stand. And then where the gas pumps are, of course, that's where Dr. Parnell pulls up in the Malibu. Dr. Parnell would have pulled up to one of these gas pumps right here and then headed off to the vending machines. And that's when the Rodriguez brothers pull up and they distract Kevin by sending him into the office so that they can steal the Malibu. So the way that you can tell that this is really the correct spot is when the Rodriguez brothers are getting ready to take the Malibu, you can actually see this building across the street, which still looks pretty similar to how it did in the movie. So I believe that this is the building where Otto is trying to repossess the old lady's car, and then her son comes home with his ska band, and the station wagon would have been parked right here in front, and when Otto tries to repossess it, the entire ska band comes out and beats him up. The majority of the stuff matches up, so I do believe that this is the correct spot, but I don't know 100%. After the Rodriguez brothers steal the Malibu, they stop right here at this little diner to get a couple of drinks and to use the payphone. Now, the building looks a little bit different, but this is the place, and the phone booth would have been right here in front. And of course, while he's using the payphone, we see Duke and the gang come running down the street right here, and then they jump in the Malibu and take off in it. Now, one of the ways that you can tell that this is the right place is when they run past the Malibu and then they stop to go back and jump in it. The camera is pointing this way and you can see this building, and this building still looks exactly the same. This is where Otto's trying to repossess the car, and as he's doing that, the owner of the car starts shooting at him from inside the house. Otto would have come from right over here, and you can see the refinery behind him. The car would have been parked right here in front of the house, and as he's trying to repossess it, the owner starts shooting at him from inside the house, actually from that window right there. That's when Light pulls up and starts firing back. They have a quick shootout right here before Otto finally gets in the car and takes off. Right here, this is where the phone booth was, where Leila is having the conversation with Dr. Parnell. As she comes walking down the sidewalk right here, and the phone booth would have been right here against the building, and she gets in the phone booth and she's trying to talk to Dr. Parnell. And at the time, this building wasn't here. This was just an empty field, and the phone booth would have been right over there. Now this building right here, this is the one that you see behind Dr. Parnell when he's in the phone booth. The car would have come down the street right here and then crashed into the phone booth, which would have been somewhere right in this area. And this is where Leila is running away down the street. Notice this sign right here. And right on the corner is where the two agents catch up with her. The building on the corner looks a little bit different. I believe that this is the location where Dr. Parnell finds the Malibu after Duke and his gang steal it. Now the Malibu would have been parked somewhere over here, and we see Duke and his gang come running around the building right over there. Now pretty much everything here seems to match up. The apartment building and the utility pole, and even those fences right there past the brick building. So like I said, the Malibu would have been parked right here. It's hard to say exactly where, but somewhere right here in this area. And of course, this is where Archie opens the trunk, and that's the end of Archie. And after Archie gets vaporized and they get scared and run off, you can see this plaza here across the street. Now it's changed a lot, it's been updated, but you can definitely see this. And of course, this is where they run off and they say those awesome lines.
Come on, Duke, let's go do those crimes.
Yeah, let's go get sushi and not pay.
Now, if I'm correct about this being the parking lot, and I'm pretty sure that I am, I'm gonna assume that they used the Silver Lake bar as the bar that they come running out of, where we see the Circle Jerks performing a lounge version of one of their songs. Right here is the spot where Bud is chasing after the Rodriguez brothers, and we see them coming down 4th Street and then turning onto Lower Grand. Now I can't turn right here because it's one way now, but this is where they would have turned. And when they make that turn, you can actually see Olive, which is right here. Now we're gonna go around and come from the other side, and I'll show you where Bud and the Rodriguez brothers stop and get into that fight. Okay, now like I said, they would have been coming down 4th Street right here and then turned onto Lower Grand. And it's kind of hard to tell exactly where they stopped, but I think by counting these pillars, I'm pretty sure they stopped right about here. Now this looks a little bit different. I'm gonna assume that's probably because this parking garage wasn't here at the time. This was all just a fence, and this would have been where they stopped, and Bud gets out with the baseball bat, and I think it's Napoleon jumps up on the car, and they have that big argument, and Bud's threatening them with the baseball bat. Now this is where they're driving when Bud and Otto are arguing. We see them pass right by the Brownstone Hotel, which is this building right here on my right. Now they drive down the street just a little bit further, and Bud shuts off the car and Otto gets out and walks away. But it's hard to tell exactly where that takes place because all these other buildings have completely changed. Now this is where we see Otto walking down the street looking sad. We see him walk past that utility pole and that window and that door. As he continues down the street, we see him walk past this utility pole, and that's where the two men in the hazmat suits are loading the guy in the back of the truck. The camera then cuts and Otto's at the end of the block. There's a homeless man sitting on the corner, and we see the 64 Malibu come around the corner right here and drive off down the street. Otto then chases after the Malibu over the 4th Street Bridge, and we see this building on the right and this building on the left. Now the entire time that Otto's chasing after the Malibu, you can tell that he's holding something in his mouth. And as he gets to right about here, he stops and he leans over the bridge to throw up, and now the Malibu is magically going underneath the bridge. Otto comes running down those stairs, and he takes off that way, running after Dr. Parnell. The camera is now shooting on the other side of the bridge, and we see Dr. Parnell stop, and he lets Otto get in the car. Now, pretty much that entire scene with Dr. Parnell and Otto driving around takes place right here in this area. You can actually see this building in the background a couple of times. Now, that entire scene ends in the same place where it began. Dr. Parnell blacks out and he ends up almost crashing into this building. Otto takes Dr. Parnell out of the car and he leaves him on the bus bench and takes off in the Malibu. And of course, a short time later, we see the government agency here using the flamethrower on Dr. Parnell because of all the radiation that he was around. This is where the final liquor store scene takes place, where Duke ends up dying, which of course was society's fault. Now, I used to actually live just a couple of blocks from this liquor store, and I came here quite often, and I had no idea that this is where they shot Repo Man until just recently. Now, they did actually film inside this liquor store, so let's head inside and see if they'll let us get a couple of shots. And here it is. This is where Duke and Debbie come running through the front door right there, and Bud and Otto are standing by the counter over here. Now, at the end of that scene, Debbie's standing over here, and for whatever reason, she tosses a bag of popcorn at Otto before running out the front door. Now, if we take a look down this aisle, right in the back of the store, this is where the security guard would have been standing. Do you have any idea what other movie you've seen that security guard in? Now, if we take a look right down here, I believe this is the spot where Duke lays dying and blames everything on society.
I blame society.
This pole right here can actually be seen in the movie. Bud falls against this pole when he gets shot in the ear. And right back there behind the counter is where the store clerk would have been, who pulls out the shotgun. The clerk that's working here now was just telling me that the guy that you see in the movie was the real store clerk, a guy named Dave. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you know of some Repo Man locations that I wasn't able to find, let me know and I'll do a follow-up video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go do that now, and I'll see you next time. Wow, this is intense.
Repo Man's always intense.